Grandpa Lobo on the drum. Yeah.
And we can see you.
Okay, I'm going to start the broadcast. Give me about 15 seconds.
Okay.
What you
How's
doing,
that?
Director Taylor?
We are logging you in, Chair Taylor, and you should be on air in 5 seconds. We are on air. Your mic is muted.
How great was that? Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the meeting of the Committee of Parent and Community Engagement of the Board of School Directors. Will please come to order. Madam Secretary, will you please call the roll?
Director Baez.
Present.
Director Miller.
Here.
Director O'Halloran.
Present.
Director Woodward. Here. And Chair Taylor.
In attendance.
We have 5 present. I'm sorry, we have 6 present because we also have Director Seamson joining the meeting.
Thank you. At this time, we have a short announcement regarding interpretation services of the Spanish-speaking members of our listening audience.
Buenas tardes. Para las personas que desean escuchar la Junta Escolar, por favor de llamar al teléfono 312-626-6796 y marcar 973-5573-3046. Una vez más, el teléfono es 312-626-6796 y marcar 973-5573-3046. Gracias.
Thank you. At this time, I ask board members to please put your device on mute and remain muted unless you are speaking. This will help to reduce digital interference and will help our board clerk and the listening audience keep track of who is speaking. Members, if you wish to speak, please put your hands or use the raise hand feature on the platform. If I am unclear of the speaking order, I will ask the secretary to read the speaking order based on the order indicated by the virtual platform that we are using. Madam Secretary, can you please lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance? I ask all people on the call to please mute your devices. Thank you.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Madam Clerk, I have a clarifying question before I start. For you.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. I know in the past we have read off because we are meeting virtually. I do not have that in my possession at this time.
Okay, so at this time, the chair is asking board members to please put your device on mute and remain muted unless you are speaking. For the listening audience and in the public notice, as publicly noticed, Chair Taylor will make a motion to waive paragraphs 3A, 5D, and any other portions of Board Rule 1.06, which may restrict or prevent the board from convening a remote or virtual meeting under the present emergency circumstances in order to allow members of the board to participate remotely without a quorum of the board being physically present in the Central Services building.
Thank you for that, Madam Clerk. We also need to call a roll call on that vote.
We would need you to make the motion, Madam Chair.
Thank you. I make a motion for what the board clerk just read to us.
And that is waiving the board rules to allow the board to meet virtually. On the motion is read into the record. Director Baez.
Aye.
Director Miller,
Aye.
Director O'Halloran,
Aye.
Director Woodward, Director Woodward, your mic is muted, Director Woodward. One moment.
Director Woodward, we show you as muted right now.
She's not muted now.
I said that I'm out.
I'm still not getting that. If you'd like to change directions, try saying, "Tell me something interesting."
Director Woodward, we are in the roll call vote to waive board rules to hold the meeting virtually.
Okay. Yes.
Okay, and Chair Taylor.
Aye.
That's 5 ayes. The motion passes.
Thank you. For Madam Clerk, can you call item number 1?
Madam Chair, just for the listening audience, as indicated in the notice of this meeting, we will be taking comments from the public for those who have registered in advance. For those individuals on the platform who have registered to speak, when your name is called, please state your name and spell your last name for the record. Then begin giving your testimony. You will have 2 minutes and 15 seconds to speak. Once your time has elapsed, you will be removed from the platform. I will ask the board clerk to indicate when there are 30 seconds of time left for the speaker. For the listening audience, if you wish to access this evening's agenda items and attachments online, you may do so by visiting esb.milwaukee.k12.wi.us. Madam Chair, item 1 is a report with possible action regarding the 53206 initiative. This is an informational item, and although it has been noticed for possible action, no action is required.
Administration.
Yes, good evening, Chair Taylor and members of the committee. Keith Posley, Superintendent of Schools. Before you is our final report regarding the MPS 53206 initiative for the 2019-20 school year. While there are more work ahead of us to support our students through this important initiative, a great deal of progress has been made. With me this evening to present information on the progress as well as next steps as planning for the 2020-2021 school year is the team headed up by Mr. Maurice Turner and Dr. Zanetta Walker, who's the principal of our Avenue School, one of our 53206 schools. And after which we will be prepared to answer any questions that you may have. And I'm going to turn it over to Mr. Turner at this time. Mr. Turner.
Thank you, Dr. Posley. Good evening, Chair Taylor and members of the PACE Committee, as well as Dr. Posley. Maurice E. Turner, Instructional Leadership Director for the citywide region and co-lead of the 53206 initiative. I am accompanied this evening by Dr. Zanetta Walker, Principal of Our Avenue Elementary School. We will be providing you with an update on the 53206 initiative. In our last update for the PACE Committee that was given on February 11, 2020, this next slide shows our district's 5 priorities for success. We're all familiar with them: increasing academic achievement and accountability, improving district and school culture, developing our staff, ensure fiscal responsibility and transparency, and lastly, strengthening communication and collaboration. We feel that the 53206 initiative touches all 5 of these priorities for success. The next slide is the demographics for the 53206 8 cohort schools. Once again, it's composed of 8 schools. The 8 schools are as follows: Our Avenue, La Follette, Gwen T. Jackson, Keith Avenue, Hopkins Lloyd, Benjamin Franklin, Andrew S. Douglas Middle School, and lastly, North Division High School. Currently, we have 2,132 students that are enrolled in the 8 schools in the 53206 cohort of schools. In our last update, we shared with you that we were working on a strategic plan. Once again, this was prior to the school closure due to the COVID-19 pandemic. We shared that we were in the beginnings of the developmental stages of a strategic plan. We found that the need to develop the 53206 steering committee, which is composed of the 8 building principals of the schools in 53206. The steering committee is responsible for meeting, or often they meet every third every third Monday of the month. The role of the committee is to build coherence in instruction, equity, and community engagement. Prior to the pandemic, we agreed that we founded our initiative on the 5 tenets. 5 tenets being high quality instructional practices, social emotional well-being. Number 3, family engagement. 4, community partnerships. And lastly, number 5, the development of both teachers and leaders serving students and families in the 53206 zip code. In our last February meeting in 2020, the 53206 principal cohort felt that the community schools model would be the best way to meet the goals of the 5 tenets of 53206. Although we understand that at the present time that the community schools partnership is not able to accept any more schools, however, we feel that the schools that are currently not community schools in the initiative will adopt the values of the model. The values of that model is shared leadership, equity, and lastly, cultural relevance. As a result of the COVID-19 pandemic, we had an initial timeline in place. We've had to readjust that timeline and push back a few items. However, I'm going to give you a brief overview of the new timeline. So in March, we shared with the school communities a questionnaire, a survey around the values and the beliefs of the community schools model. A survey was sent to school principals with the expectation that they would share that with their local leadership teams to determine how their schools rated in the 3 values around shared leadership, equity, and cultural relevance. The school closure happened before the survey could be taken. However, we have rescheduled that survey to be taken by the local school teams for this June so that they can rate on where they fall in regards to those 3 values. Survey results will be compiled and school teams will create action plans around school needs in the 3 areas. In July, we will compile that information and share with building principals. And then in August and September, we will compose a peer review team, which will include principal peers in the cohort, community school leadership from central services, as well as staff from the school improvement office to provide feedback as well as to align supports from our offices to support schools in their needs around those 3 core values. We will conduct school community listening sessions after 3rd Friday because we know how busy schools are prior to 3rd Friday with enrollment. But after 3rd Friday, soon after, we will conduct community listening sessions with school communities to get their input on how to move the school forward in those 3 areas. Which one? All right. Okay, so slide 5 we want to share currently where schools are performing academically by using the results from the STAR. Considering that there is no new data, we only have fall and winter data. As you can see on the PowerPoint, in the 8 cohort schools, in early literacy, 55 more students are on target to proficiency, 60 fewer students are below basic. In reading, 14 more students are on target to proficiency, 103 fewer students are below basic. In math, 46 more students are on target to proficiency with 146 fewer students below basic. In February, we highlighted the incredible work around parent and community engagement of one of our 53206 schools, which is Hopkins Street. It's Hopkins Lloyd. I'm thinking back to when I used to be the principal there, but Hopkins Lloyd School. Miss Natasha Harris, the principal of Hopkins Lloyd, shared the monthly efforts of engaging community and partners through the homework diners hosted at Hopkins Lloyd. In this update, we will be highlighting our Avenue School, another fantastic 53206 school that is also a community school, and the awesome work that the Our Community School has done supporting students and families during the school year, and more importantly, during the COVID-19 virus pandemic. My colleague and peer is Miss Dr. Walker. She will be sharing the awesome work that's going on at Our. But prior to that, we're going to talk about the STAR results at Our. Early literacy. In early literacy, Our currently has 25 more students on target to proficiency, 21 fewer students that are below basic. Currently in reading, 3 more students on target to proficiency with 8 fewer students below basic. And in math, we got 12 more students on target to proficiency with 18 fewer students below basic. At this time, we'd like to highlight Our Avenue School and their efforts during the pandemic. In spite of the pandemic, Our Avenue has stayed steadfast in its commitment to its students, families, and its community. Our has continued to support their students academically, social-emotionally, and provided nutritional assistance during the pandemic. At this time, it is my pleasure to share this presentation with none other than the principal, Dr. Zanetta Walker of Our Avenue Elementary School. Our Avenue School is a community school in the 53206 initiative. Dr. Walker.
Good evening, Chair Taylor, members of the PACE Committee, and Dr. Posley, Dr. Zanetta Walker. Let me first say that I am deeply honored and humbled to present to you the work that the staff and our community partners have done throughout the closure of schools due to the COVID-19 pandemic. We have taken an integrated approach to support the needs of our students through the following lens: high-quality instructional practices. In order to continue to provide educational instruction during the pandemic, grade-level instructional packets were provided from the Curriculum and Instruction Department and distributed to students. As we move to the remote learning platform, 135 Chromebooks and 17 hotspots were provided to our students. Teacher-led instruction via Google Classroom and other digital platforms. Teachers and support staff provided additional online instructional sites to the students and helped them navigate those resources, and provided guidance and instructions to the parents so they would be able to assist all learning. Social emotional well-being. Students were provided weekly lessons and videos that address their social emotional well-being. Our trauma specialists provided support and training to the teachers on how to provide online lessons for social emotional learning and conducted wellness checks on the students and their families. Our school therapists, through the Community Partnership for Mental Health, continued weekly sessions with students involved in the program. Through the Community School Partnership, a wellness check protocol was developed and used to provide the needed support and resources to our families. Family engagement. Prior to COVID-19 pandemic, our Avenue families were participating in the FAST program, Families and Schools Together. The FAST program builds relationships among parents, schools, and the community. Multiple families gather once a week for 8 weeks to share a meal, participate in a variety of structured social activities, including music, drawing, and family games, children's sports, and opportunities for the parents to interact in activities that apply theory and research. Our Avenue FAST team was able to provide the FAST program at home for the FAST families. The FAST team met with the families for 8 weeks during the pandemic through phone conferences and video meetings. I am proud to say that all of our FAST families will be graduating from the FAST program on June 12, 2020. Teaching and leadership development. Fred DeVito says it best. If it doesn't challenge you, it doesn't change you. Through this pandemic, our teachers were required to change their traditional way of teaching students in a classroom filled with desks, chairs, and chalk, to providing instruction virtually with the use of Chromebooks and/or laptops. Teachers continued their development through participating in online learning platforms. Teachers collaborated with each other during grade level meetings, professional development trainings, and staff meetings. Teachers incorporated different modes of instructions with online resources and communicated with students and their families using a variety of technology applications such as Google Classroom, Google Meet, or Class Dojo. Community partnerships. Our Avenue School is a community school that has strong community partnerships that continues to thrive throughout the pandemic. Our partners' commitment to supporting the vision of creating a school community that is collaborative and involves all stakeholders to meet the academic and social emotional needs of the whole child was evident through the Milwaukee Urban League providing Munch and Learn grab bags for students during the Chromebook deployment, the donation of gift cards for families, clothing and socks donations and other basic items. United Way donated hygiene products, clothing, household items, and food. Northwestern Mutual donated to the United Way to support the families, and they provided staff appreciation gift for our staff. The SCPMH therapists met with students weekly. Feeding America provided non-perishable food for 300 families for the Grab and Go food pantry. Milwaukee Center for Independence provided daily grab and go lunches on Ours Playground. COA provided our families with boxes and supplied meat for the Grab and Go food pantry for 300 families. MKE Cares donated food pantry distribution for the Grab and Go. Food Right donated fresh produce for the Grab and Go food pantry distribution. Armani United and the Dominican Center helped to advocate and coordinate basic needs and resources for families at our and in the 53206 zip code. COA collaborated with the Our Avenue School social worker and the mobile trauma team social worker to ensure all of our families had food regardless of transportation. Our Avenue staff and community volunteers from across the city helped to coordinate and distribute food, clothing, hygiene products, and household items during the Grab and Go food pantry. Our next steps is phase 2. And I must say I'm excited about phase 2 and the work that will engage the family and staff in the 53206 cohort. As Mr. Turner stated, we are developing the steering committee, hosting listening sessions, and using the model of community school framework as we work towards supporting all schools in the 53206 cohort to become a community school. Thank you.
We are prepared for any questions that you may have at this time.
Any committee members have any questions? I see Director Woodwork, then I see Director Bias in that order, please. And then Director O'Halloran.
Okay. Mrs. Walker, one of my questions is, the last time I was with you, I was with Imani at your school, and I wanted to know, did they ever connect with you and now working with you on a regular basis, Imani? I was there with Mr. Diaz and Miss Helen. Are they working with you now?
Chair Taylor and members of the committee.
Chair Taylor, members of the PACE committee, and Dr. Posley, Dr. Zanetta Walker, yes, Armani United is working with us. We did connect, as in the report, they helped coordinate to make sure that all families were able to get the necessities they needed in spite of transportation issues.
Thank you. Follow-up, Director.
Yes, follow-up. Also, that we were having a problem getting parents to come out because of not PAL, it's no longer, Children Out in Association seem to be taking students, a lot of students, and getting them to attend there, but we weren't getting them at our. Has that improved?
Administration.
Chair Taylor, members of the PACE committee, and Dr. Posley, Dr. Zanetta Walker, yes, it has. Since prior to the pandemic, we hosted several family events, math nights, parents came out. We were planning for our huge health fair that would include families. And in collaboration with COA, we were working towards aligning our family nights together so that it would not be a competition for events being hosted on the same day.
Yes, and on the third. What did she say?
No, follow-up for you, Director Woodward.
Yes, there is. On the third, you mentioned that every third Monday that you were holding some kind of event. What event is that, you said?
Administration.
Chair Taylor, members of the PACE committee, Maurice Turner, Instructional Leadership Director for the citywide region. What I was pointing out in my presentation is that the 8 principals in the 53206 initiative make up the steering committee, and the steering committee meets every third Monday of the month to collaborate.
Okay. Well, yes, I just want to thank you for all that you're doing, and I'm looking forward to us to grow and become more successful and really meet our expectations, and that all our children will succeed in reading and their writing and math, and that they grow and develop and be all that they can be. And I want to thank you for your presentation. I'm looking forward for great things from you. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Director Woodward. Director Bias.
I got it. Thank you. Many of you know that I have been very concerned about the fact that there are social factors affecting that particular community that we need to change in some way, and a school initiative alone will not be able to do it. I mean, we need other partners to participate in that process. So I want to thank the administration for the report that has been put together, and we have become a lot more aware of what those 8 schools, are sort of like doing together, and then our in particular, and in every report we hear about one particular school and what they're doing. But I was going to suggest a complementary idea. It seems to me that we need a report that goes into the social factor, okay, into the economic factors that affect the community. We sort of like need to know to what extent the effect of having partners on the community as a whole and in the schools is really moving the needle. Okay, so I was going to suggest to the administration, and this is a friendly suggestion, that maybe a future report, okay, should include some metrics on what is happening with that community as a whole. So I'm looking at some specific things. I would love to be able to see to what degree we are affecting the a change in the segregation of that community. Is there less segregation? Is there more segregation? We need to know something about that, because that affects how schools respond to that situation. I would love to know what kind of improvement have we seen in the employment rates in that community? Has there been improvements in employment? And with the pandemic right now, I would guess that there's an increase in the levels of unemployment of that community, because it's affected by the fact that they have less access to work. And that is going to affect how their kids respond when they come to school. So I would love to be able to see to what degree there has been a change in the condition of employment of the parents and people in that community. I would love to know if there has been a change in housing ownership, if people have increased the ownership of housing in that community, or have they not? I would love to see something related to family income. Has there been a movement of the needle, again, in terms of family income in that community? The issues of disparity of wealth in that community are so substantial, and it affects, family income. So I would love to know a little bit more about that. I would like to know a little bit more about the reduction of persons incarcerated in that community. Has there been a reduction? That has an effect on children. So we need to sort of like know about that. Has there been a movement of sorts in terms of the people insured in that community, health insurance, and to what degree has that affected, children in our schools? And then I would like to know a little bit more about child poverty. Has there been a change in the percentage of child poverty in that community? So I'm just listing out of the top of my head some things, some factors that I think we sort of like need to know, so that then we know how we share this with our partners. That are partners, because there are two types of partners. I heard Ms. Walker, Dr. Walker, talk about the partnerships related to her school and the kinds of wonderful things that those partners are doing. But the partners of the initiative as a whole. And if they're partners of the initiative as a whole that affect the total SIP poll 53206, how, why, I mean, I'm trying to say it, but how would they know if there is an impact, okay, on the partnership in the community as a whole? So you have an initiative that is a school-based initiative, and that's great. The schools are trying to do something. They're meeting on those Mondays. They're doing all these kinds of things in every one of those schools. But the aggregate of that work, we need to know a little bit more about that aggregate, and then how that aggregate gets to the other partners, so that they increase the level of participation and involvement in that particular community, because we need to measure at some point if there has been a change as a function of us supporting a 53206 initiative.
Thank you, Director Baez. Administration, I know there was a compact of maybe 8 questions within there.
Chair Taylor, members of the committee, there's a matrix that is going to be coming out with the strategic plan. Oh, There's a matrix that's going to be coming out with a strategic plan, and it will address a number of those situations around community information. There's a few things on there that we took some note of that may not be when it comes to some of the home ownership and things of that nature, but that is something that the team can take a closer look at to see where we are with that particular piece. And there is some that should be out in October. So that is something that will possibly be a part of the upcoming cycle when we do our quarterly report.
Okay, now I want to talk.
Thank you, Director Woodward. I see your finger. Director Baez still has the floor, and then Director O'Halloran is after him. Follow up, Director Baez.
Sure, just a follow-up. I remember prior to the 532 initiative, the Office of Accountability and Efficiency had gathered a ton of data related to social factors affecting every particular community and every area and every group of students in the district. And I'm just suggesting here as a complementary measure that maybe the administration can work closely with the Office of Accountability and Efficiency, maybe look at that data and figure out what kinds of things. I just suggested some things in my presentation. What kinds of other things you may want to throw together as part of a report, part of that matrix, okay, on how that community looks and what kinds of things we need to do as a school district to encourage our partners to focus on particular aspects of that social condition that is affecting that particular community. So that's my intervention. Thank you.
That is okay. Administration, do you have any reply to that, or just taking it in?
No more. And I see Chair Taylor, members of the committee. I see Matt Chasen up there ready to weigh in as well. But we have already worked with the Office of Accountability and Efficiency. We are always looking at the sending and receiving reports on how we make decisions on what happens in those areas, where students are going, where students are attending, how many students are in that general area, and how many are going away from that general area to other schools. And we look at the busing patterns and things of that nature. But we will continue that dialogue with OAE to make sure that we are on the same page when it comes to all of the demographics and all of the new findings of things that were there. And I don't know if Matt wants to add anything to that.
Yeah, one second. I see Matt Chasen. And Director O'Halloran is in the queue. Director O'Halloran, would it be okay to let Matt Chasen weigh in? She's giving us a thumbs up. Matt Chasen, you're on. Director Woodward, I see you. You're after Director O'Halloran, and President Miller, you're after Director Woodward. Matt Chasen, you have the floor.
Thank you, Director Taylor. Matt Chasen, Office of Accountability and Efficiency. Yes, to Director Baez's point, there was a compilation of data we had done based on neighborhood statistics that is available from various community surveys and the Census Department. We'd be happy to continue that work with the board and the administration to develop what they had mentioned, a matrix, measures of equity, and bring that forward for the board's consideration and for our partnerships so they can understand the dynamics in play as well.
Thank you for that, Matt Chasen. Administration, any remarks, Matt Chasen?
We good.
We're good. All right, Director O'Halloran, you have the floor.
Thank you, Chair Taylor. And I just wanted to say thank you to Mr. Turner and Dr. Walker for this presentation and all the work that you have put in supporting families throughout this school closure. It sounds like there's been a lot of collaboration with community groups to meet our families' needs, and I really appreciate that. I had two questions. One, it looks like the early literacy scores, so forgive me, it's a little different not seeing it up close on the big screens, but it looks like those scores really improved. Do we have plans to help with families getting books over the summer so that we're, continuing those literacy gains throughout the summer? Or is there some way that we can, if there aren't plans in place already, is there something that we can do to support that work?
Administration.
You want me to go?
Go ahead.
Chair Taylor, members of the committee, yes, we have been distributing books out at the 25 sites. We have someone that donated a number of books to us and materials, school supplies, and we have been donating those out at various sites, the distribution sites. However, this summer we are working right now in conjunction with Dr. Lowe from Marquette University on a plan to put out rich literature from African American authors out this summer, a powerful reading piece that we are in the process of planning right now for a large number of our students within the district. And so with that, we have basically about 20,000 books that we have found and earmarked to be going out to the community. So we are going to constantly push those out, as well as all of the literature that we have on our virtual learning platform, where you can go and read books online as much as possible as well. And then we are going to encourage young people to also visit their local library if they're open at some point this summer. So those are some factors that we are moving forward to make sure that our young people get rich literature in their hands as we go forward through the summer months.
Director O'Halloran, follow-up or next question?
Yes, just one quick question, and I did want to put the general plug that the libraries, you can go pick up books now. We had to go to Central Library to get Artemis Fowl for my son, and he's very happy. So, and I'm very happy now that he has more stuff to read besides comic books. So my next question was just, I think Mr. Turner, you had said that at this point, we can't onboard any more community schools because the community schools partnership doesn't have capacity. Do you know if we have plans to work with them to onboard any additional schools in the future, or is there anything we can do to support that work?
Administration, Mr. Turner.
You go ahead, boss.
Same question.
Chair Taylor, members of the committee, the answer is that we have been working with community schools. Community schools has a framework that they use to get schools ready, and they get 4 or 5 of them ready, and then they can onboard. We have made it known that we would love to have all of our 53206 schools as a part of community schools. Mm-hmm. And so we have to look to see which school that they put in the queue this year. However, being cut short with that particular piece has thrown us behind. We want to do everything that we possibly can around adding more community schools. So for right now, we have not been made aware that we will add any additional community schools this year, but we are going to continue to push to see can we get more for the upcoming year. Okay. So we're constantly asking. It's a process. And they got a rote process that really worked, and they follow that process. We do have some schools in the queue. Not all of them are 53206 schools, though.
You're muted, Director O'Halloran. She's good. Thank you. Director Woodward. Director Woodward.
Okay, you're hearing me now?
Yes,
Can you hear me?
Yes, Director Woodward.
Yes, I would like to on some things about getting all the about all of the schools getting all the data from just, that it will not be just for this district. Is that something that's going to be going throughout the whole district? Every region will be presenting the same type of information, the police reports and poverty and all the things. Will that be something that will be going throughout the entire district, on all schools in all regions? That's my question. Or is it just going to be pertaining to 53206?
Administration.
Chair Taylor and members of the committee, anything that is great practice for young people and that provides data for the overall district, we're going to do the same thing for the overall district. Thank you. And so it's not just singled out all of the zip codes we serve. If it worked in one zip code, we want to tailor make it and have it to work in other zip codes. So anything that we are working on, we look at it from a holistic perspective, a district-wide perspective around that.
Follow up?
Follow up, Director Woodward.
Yes. One of the other things, we have research department. We still have our research department for MPS. They used to hold meetings, a research department that we have here. And also that is something students at UWM also do all that research into the communities in all areas. In fact, I have a book now, 53206, but it's a few years old. So I just want to throw that out, that there are groups that do that type of research. Also, I'm not counting our Office of Accountability because I believe they do a great job, but I think there's also people that also do it also that could be of assistance to us in getting that information. And I have a big book showing all the data in 53206 already, but I think it's a little outdated. It was done by UWM. So thank you very much. And I'm looking forward for the data on all the districts.
Thank you, Director Wood. I do see Matt Chasen from Office of Accountability did chime in. President Miller, you are in the queue. Would you like to go before or yield the floor to Matt Chasen?
Let Mr. Chasen go first, please.
All right, thank you, President Miller. Matt Chasen.
Thank you, Director Taylor. Matt Chasen, OAE. We'd be happy to, again, collaborate with the administration to produce those types of reports for each of the regions, each of the zip codes. However, it is the most digestible by the board and our partners. At whatever disaggregated level we can produce that, we'd be happy to do that.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Matt Chasen. President Miller, Director Miller.
Thank you, Chair Taylor. This is a question specific to the work of the Milwaukee Community Schools Partnership. First of all, well, thank you, Mr. Turner and Dr. Walker, for the presentation. I really appreciate you doing this and coming out into central office to give this presentation to us. I know that the Milwaukee Community Schools Partnership has been offering professional development, anti-racist, culturally responsive PD that's based in the Black Lives Matter resolution, the 2 Black Lives Matter at School resolution, and our ethnic studies approach. And I noticed that at the most recent professional development they had over 50 participants. And so it's become a very popular source for our educators in our schools. I'm just wondering if the response has been strong from our avenue, and if it's been strong from the other community schools within 53206.
Administration.
Go ahead.
Chair Taylor, members of the PACE Committee, and Dr. Posley, yes, we completed the CARES training, and from that, the survey that was conducted from all of the schools that participated, we want additional training. We want a follow-up so that we can dig deeper on some of the topics that were discussed, and needed more time so that we could dialogue with some of the guest presenters during that time.
Can I comment?
Go ahead.
President Miller. Mr. Turner.
Chair Taylor, and other members of the committee. President Miller, Maurice Turner, Instructional Leadership Director for the citywide region. That's part of the summer work for developing kind of that equity belief that community schools have. And just to go back to Director O'Halloran's question, although we know that we can't add community schools at this time, we're adopting some of those values in all of our schools across 53206. And so with equity being one of those values, we'll definitely be working with teachers and leaders in that area.
And I would like to add, Chair Taylor, members of the committee, one of the things that, we talked about, Director O'Halloran asked about expansion of making sure that we could get more schools involved in the community schools piece. I've been informed that we will have one school coming on board, and that's Mitchell And also there's a consideration being done with MLK, Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. But we were talking more about the 53206 piece. Like I said, they got this robust plan. And so therefore they select where, who's ready to go forward because they spend a year working to get them ready. And so our ultimate goal is to get all 8 schools, but the 2 schools that we have is not in the 53206 zip code.
All right. President Miller?
Yeah, just one. That's excellent. I love it that Mitchell's joining, and Martin Luther King Elementary is right across the street from 53206, across the highway, excuse me, from 53206. And so it's a great connection. I was at the, I believe the instructor was Benita Love's professional development was the most recent one. And would you just, Dr. Walker, would you explain to everybody what the CARE initiative is? Because that's specific to the community schools. If you just give a quick explanation of what that is, so all the public and the board is aware of what that initiative is.
Administration, Dr. Walker.
Chair Taylor, members of the PACE committee, that CARE initiative is stepping out anti-bias, anti-racism within the community schools cohorts. And we are partnering. We've had presenters from the Black and Latino male achievement. So that work that they're doing within the Black and male Latino achievement committee, we're also adopting some of those practices within the community schools framework, looking at culturally relevant teaching practices so we can stop out racism and get equity across the board. It's a coalition that's being formed for anti-racist practices.
Thank you,
Director Miller.
Thank you, Dr. Walker. Thank you, Chair Taylor.
Thank you. I thank you guys for the report. A lot of you asked some of the questions. I asked them in reference to onboarding more community schools. Another thing that I asked when we are speaking in favor of phases is that the school that is presenting, how do we align it with their next steps to ensure that with the 53206 initiative that we are giving next steps and updates on how this would align. So in the future, I'm looking forward to seeing that adjustment. Thank you, administration, Mr. Turner and Dr. Walker. Director Woodward, was your hand up again? Okay. Madam Secretary, do we have any public comments on item 1?
Madam Chair, we do not have any individuals who have requested to speak on this item or who have submitted testimony.
All right. Committee members, any further discussion of this on this item? No. Thank you, Madam Chair. Next item, please.
Item 2 is a report with possible action on the services provided to students with disabilities in the least restrictive environment. This is an informational item, and although it has been noticed for possible action, no action is required.
Thank you, Madam Secretary. Does the administration wish to comment on this item?
Yes, Chair Taylor and members of the committee, Keith Posley, Superintendent of Schools. The item before you is our quarterly LRE report. Jennifer Mims Howell is here with me this evening to provide some essential information on our progress and with our school data. And at this time, I will ask Jennifer Mims Howell to begin the presentation. Jennifer.
I'm sorry, Dr. Posley, we cannot hear you.
It came in now. Can't hear.
You can't hear me? You can't hear Jennifer?
We cannot hear Jennifer.
Huh?
We cannot hear Jennifer.
Okay, she's good now.
Thank you.
Chair Taylor, members of the committee, I am Jennifer Mims Howell, Senior Director of Specialized Services. As Dr. Posley mentioned, the LRE data that we have for our district remains consistent. In May of 2019, when the school year concluded, our students with disabilities who were included with their non-disabled peers for 80% of their day. We're at 77.9%. As we end this school year, our May data shows that we are at 78.9%. The data remains consistent from May to May as our students transition from elementary to middle and middle to high. As students prepare to go to the transition grades, IEP teams, make sure that the information is reflected so that students have a good platform to start off in their new year. Are there any questions?
Committee members, are there any questions or comments on this item? I see Director Woodward's hand. You're still muted, Director Woodward.
I'm trying to get it out. There it is, coming out of there. I would like to direct this question to Ms. Howell.
Yes, Director Woodward.
My question, I can't see her. I was looking for her. Okay, but that's okay. Supervisor Howell, I had a question about is this going to be in the other part of the report about the graduation and that rate? It's going to be in coordination with this LRE, least restricted environment. Is that going to be separate?
Administration, Dr. House.
May I ask a clarifying question? Chair Taylor, Director Woodward, may I ask a clarifying question, please?
Yes. Okay. The question was about the graduation rate. Would that be included in this part of your report, or is that in the part somewhere else?
Chair Taylor, Director Woodward, the graduation rate for students with disabilities is not included in the LRE report. Is that information that you would like provided?
Yes. Yes.
Director Woodward, yes.
Okay.
Chair Taylor, members of the committee, we will get those that data into you very briefly.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Director Miller. You're muted.
Director Mims Hull, Ms. Mims Hull, if I'm every day I think about our special ed students in the sense of how are they doing overall in this whole pandemic situation. I know that your department is working very hard to meet the needs of students, and you've had to go through huge transition and to update all the paperwork and the IEPs and all of that kind of stuff is going on at the same time and continuing at the level it's supposed to. But can you kind of give us some insight in how we're supporting our students? That particularly those that are physically restricted. If you could give us some update on that.
Administration, Dr. House.
Chair Taylor, Director Miller, members of the committee, the information that I can share with you about the support that we're doing for special education students is we are continuing to meet them on the virtual platform. We're making calls. We're using Google Classroom. And there's also small groups that are happening too. There's mailings going home to students as well. As of March 16th, we had 6,082 IEPs that were due before our traditional end of the school year. We currently only have remaining 648 IEPs. Parents are called to ask if they would like to participate in the IEP meeting, virtual or on a phone call. Parents are able to talk with the classroom teacher, the special education support staff that is assigned to their student, and they can also during that time ask for other information regarding their child's either social, emotional, or academic supports. We are continuing to take in referrals for students who are being referred to have disabilities. We currently have 52 referrals out there. Those parents have been contacted to let them know that testing, face-to-face testing, will begin as soon as we're able to test in person. However, parents are also given some resources to work on with the student. For instance, if a student has a speech concern, we'll connect them with one of our speech pathologists to make sure that they have some ideas and goals to work on. Parents who call in with specific questions about their student's IEP, we also connect them with the special education supervisor and the support staff that are attached to make sure that students and parents feel supported during this time. We also have been talking to students weekly. Documentation has been sent home to parents that need it, and parents who need community outreach, they're also offered that support as well.
Director Miller.
As usual, Ms. Mims, how there's a lot of fidelity in this work, in the work that you do, and I appreciate that. I would just ask one thing of the superintendent is that when you do present the plans for opening in the fall, that there's be some presentation, some discussion on our special needs students in that presentation.
I'll ask that as well. Administration.
Chair Taylor and members of the board, that is so noted, and we just kind of talked about that this morning, and senior staff kind of talking about the numbers of students and various groups of students and what needs to happen and what that will look like. So that will be something that we will make some comments about.
Thank you. Madam Secretary, I am passing the gavel to co-chair Director O'Halloran.
Okay. Director Taylor.
Thank you, Chair O'Halloran. And thank you for this report, Dr. House. I know we talked about the amount of IEPs, and I'm very glad to hear that we have definitely been able to do thousands. Can you just give a little more information about some of the details we went over with the pre-PACE in reference to if school opens or if a parent does not feel comfortable when it opens, in reference to the IEP, and where are we at and what is the grace period to ensure that they are done and completed?
O'Halloran, Director Taylor, members of the committee, Jennifer Mims House, Senior Director of Specialized Services. To address your question, what happens is a parent is called and asked that they would like to have the IEP meeting virtually, or if they would like to have a phone call meeting. If a parent says, well, I would prefer to wait, what we've been doing is we've been noting that information in Infinite Campus. We also ask, are there any supports that the student needs at this time? Mom may say yes or no. Because we haven't been given a waiver by DPI, we have documentation in Infinite Campus along with, we call it our COVID addendum, where we document that a parent was contacted and that information was documented on the IEP, about the IEP into the addendum page that is attached to the IEP. The grace period that we have, we in Milwaukee Public Schools complete IEPs through September 30th. So there's a grace period for as far as students when they come back to school, if there's movement of the student, or if there's a different situation, a child may have a different teacher, or those kind of things may pop up. So we do have the grace period of about a month. Any information that's documented that a parent either chooses not to have the IEP online, chooses to wait to have it in person, or a parent is going to decide to wait until they can have a face-to-face meeting with assessments. Like I said, that information is documented, but that doesn't mean we stop there. We contact that parent to make sure they have what they need, and we also continue to send that student information via email or through regular mail too. A good example is for our students who have been signed up for ESY, and in some respects, mom or dad feel that the virtual platform is not a good platform for them. They would probably say, well, I don't want the virtual platform, but are there activities that they can do? So we put packages together for families and we mail that out. So any child that qualified for ESY this time around, or any parent that would like additional supports for summer, we have packets prepared and we can send it out based on some of the information that came from the package during at the 20 grab and go sites, but also just enrichment information and goal-based information based on their IEP.
Follow-up?
Yep, quick
Director
follow-up.
Taylor?
Thank you, Chair O'Halloran. Thank you for that. I just felt like the people that are viewing and the other board members needed to ensure some of the extra work that we are doing. Often I've talked about our special needs students, and a lot of them, this virtual learning does not work for them. It may be also a challenge for their parents, but just to see that we are doing an extra reach to ensure that they are getting their services met hopefully. Also, when you spoke of the 52 people that are within waiting, could you just summarize really quick that process for us and how it possibly depends on when we reopen or what can be done?
Chair O'Halloran, Director Taylor, members of the committee, the 52 referrals that we have waiting in queue, they differ based on what a child has been referred for. So, like I said, the parent has been contacted, and basically we're keeping in contact with the parent, basically to get some of the background information that we can definitely start on. But we also don't want to let the parent, we don't want them to believe they're hanging out there. So what are some supports that we can give? So that's an individual conversation with each parent. We talk to them about, let's say a child is being referred for speech, like I said before, there may be some speech activities we can work on. There may be some, mom may be concerned about academics and maybe the area of math. So we would contact the grade level math teacher to make sure we provided some activities and enrichment for them. And when parents call or contact our Child Find hotline, we try to get back to them so that they know that although the school district is closed, we still are ensuring we're ready to accept that child's referral when they return back. And we want to make sure that we have everything in place that we can do the referrals when we can meet face to face and get the assessments done. In some cases, some of the conversation can be done over the phone or it can be done online. However, we do want to ensure that all team members have an opportunity to view the student so that the referral process and their eligibility is done succinctly.
Thank you.
Director O'Halloran?
Yes.
Chair O'Halloran, members of the PACE committee, Director Woodworth asked a question about students with disabilities graduation rates, and we only have for 2019 because our 2020 rates are not in as of yet. For 2019, it's 46.8%. That is an increase that's up from the previous year at 41.8%.
Madam Chair?
Yes, Dr. Mann. Dr. Mann.
I believe during the report there was an acronym used of ESY. For our listening audience, could the administration explain what ESY is?
Yeah.
Sure. Chair O'Halloran, Dr. Mann, members of the committee, ESY stands for Extended School Year. That is a program offered to our students with disabilities that qualify because they have recruitment or regression of learning. So we continue to extend their school year of learning so that they can continue to stay on target.
Okay.
Thank you.
And thank you very much for that information.
And Director Taylor, do you want me to pass the gavel back?
Sure.
Okay.
Gavel has been passed.
So noted.
Okay. Any other committee members have any comments on this item? Madam Secretary, was there any public comments on this item?
Madam Chair, we received no written testimony or a request to speak on this item.
Thank you. Madam Clerk, next item, please.
The next item on the agenda is item number 3, a report with possible action regarding the MPS Mental Health Initiative. This is an informational item, and although it has been noticed for possible action, no action is required. Madam Chair?
Thank you, Madam Secretary.
Madam Chair?
Yes.
Prior to the administration giving its report, I wanted to alert you that we do have 3 individuals who have registered to speak on this item and 1 piece of written testimony. Thank you.
Thank you. Will the administration speak? And for the written testimony, is it okay with the committee that we hear that first and then go to our comments? Thumbs up, down. Okay. Thank you, Madam Secretary. Administration.
Yes, Chair Taylor and members of the committee, Keith Fosley, Superintendent of Schools. Our last item this evening on the PACE Committee agenda is an update on our recent ongoing efforts related to the MPS Mental Health Initiative. At this time, I'm going to ask Dina Radke, the manager of Schools Social Work Services, to provide an update, and after which we'll be happy to answer any questions that you may have. Dina, go ahead.
Yep. Good evening, Chair Taylor, members of the committee. My name is Dina Radke, Manager for School Social Work Services and Transition Services, Department of Specialized Services. Last fall, we adopted the DPI mental health framework in MPS. This model is a multi-tiered system of support that includes both prevention and intervention activities. The overview I will be providing tonight will give a larger sort of umbrella overview of things that have continued and some things that are new as we move forward in mental health. Our school social workers and school psychologists have been connecting with students and families regularly to provide support, gauge needs, and provide resource information to families as needed. In addition to that, they are using technology and virtual learning to connect with students, in particular that have been identified with a higher level of needs. So students that they either were potentially working with, some of our students that have been identified as homeless, and so on. Some of the examples include facilitating an SEL curriculum via YouTube, conducting morning meetings with students, and creating Google Classrooms, which might include things like suicide prevention information for students. Our school community partnership for mental health has continued to provide services to students and families virtually through each of their agencies. So they're working with students and families. We are continuing to work to expand the number of schools that are currently in SCPMH and are hoping to have at least 2 additional schools for next year. Our violence prevention program team have been working on creating supports for parents. And some of those types of supports include developing routines and something called Sleep Matters. So things that can help parents provide structure and routine for students, which leads to feelings of safety. They have created SEL packets, both elementary and secondary level items that are available at each of our meal sites. The packet also includes resources from Sojourner Family Peace Center that relate to trauma and violence, and resources that families can access on those 2 areas. They have also created SEL activities that are sent out weekly to all schools. These are activities that teachers can use with their students while they're using virtual learning. They are in the process of creating virtual SEL professional development for staff that will be accessible through our learning management system for teachers. We are also in the process of developing mental health resources for parents and caregivers, which will be accessible on the MPS website. Our district crisis team, which is generally accessed by schools when there is a death of a student or staff member, continue to be operational. How that work continues is different than in the past, obviously because our schools are closed, but the team is available for consultation, support, and resources for schools as needed. We are continuing our partnership with Milwaukee County Wraparound. They are currently supporting 4 of our high schools and will be adding 2 additional high schools for fall. This particular work focuses on youth who have significant mental health needs and really a big focus on early identification and early access to services. We have a school social worker who is co-located at the Sojourner Family Peace Center. This partnership will continue through the summer months and assist in identifying families who may be homeless and are victims and witnesses of violence. Supportive links to educational services can be made on site at Sojourner, as well as referrals to other agencies who are co-located on site. Student voice was an important part of this, of the framework. We had 2 opportunities and 2 items scheduled prior to school closures. So we are currently looking at rescheduling some opportunities for students to be able to give us information on mental health, what they feel is important, and how we might structure supports along the way. Last but not least, we were to roll out a new trauma-sensitive process in the spring called Handle with Care. Due to the closures, we are now set to roll it out at the beginning of the new year and provide training for our social workers and psychologists in this area. Handle with Care comes to us via the University of West Virginia and is used nationwide. We will be piloting a project with Sojourner to identify children who may have witnessed and or experienced violence. A quick, streamlined approach allows the school social worker or psychologist in the school to become aware much sooner after an event has happened, which leads us to be able to support students much quicker. So that's a large overview of some of the items that are happening to support mental health needs of both our students and families. And at this time, what I would like to do is pass this to my colleague, Kim Morath, who is the supervisor for the Violence Prevention Program, to dig a little deeper into one of the larger projects that we're engaged in terms of school reentry and support that we will be able to provide for students once we come back to school.
Chair Taylor, members of the committee, Kim Morath, Social Emotional Learning Supervisor with the Violence Prevention Program. In March, students unexpectedly left their social support systems, an important part of their adult support system, and the daily routine that they were used to was upended. Given that, we've been working on developing guidance specific to supporting the social and emotional needs of students upon their return to school in the fall. This guidance is being developed through the lens of trauma-sensitive schools, not for any specific trauma, but in recognition that students have likely experienced all sorts of stress during this extended school closure. Some of the key principles of trauma-sensitive schools and therefore priorities for supporting the social and emotional well-being of students have been embedded into this guidance, including establishing predictability, establishing a sense of community, and processing emotions. These are important components of helping students navigate stressful situations. We are also working with the school psychologist and social work supervisors, as well as a community mental health provider, to provide information on what to look for in students and in educators, and what higher level supports can be accessed as needed.
We have any questions that you may have at this time?
Any comments or questions from, we had some people who were written testimony. Let's hear from those and then I'll come back to the committee. Thank you, Madam Clerk.
We do have 3 individuals who registered to speak. However, there are only 2 individuals on the platform. Kayla Mitchell registered to speak, but is currently not on the platform. So your first speaker would be Keyshawn Lawrence.
Thank you.
Please state your name and spell your last name for the record.
My name is Keyshawn. Last name Lawrence, Lawrence. And I know that the amount of licensed professionals are being increased. And I just wanted to bring awareness to that high school is a very important time in a teen's life and often bringing forth new changes and decisions. The ability and availability of counselors and other health professionals greatly contribute to the growth and development of children, as it's not taken advantage of by every student. It is important to be given to all students as an option. And on average, there's about 1 to 2 guidance counselors or licensed professionals per MPS school, which each school averaging around like 1,000 students. And there's not enough time per day for each student to get their problem solved. And teachers shouldn't be required to do that because their job is to teach, and they shouldn't be forced to do that if that option is not given to the children. And that's all.
Thank you.
Thank you.
The next speaker would be Zara Easter. Please state your name and spell your last name for the record.
My name is Zara Easter, Easter, and I am a member of LIT, also known as Leaders Igniting Transformation. Throughout my freshman and sophomore year, I was bullied. I have previously dealt with bullying in most of my schools, so I felt there wouldn't be a change. This caused me to begin to have a negative mindset, which I couldn't get the support that I needed from the people at school due to teachers not being legally licensed to handle mental health. In that case, I needed a licensed mental health professional that legally has the training to provide. I then started having panic attacks and severe anxiety to the point where I couldn't walk into school without having an anxiety attack and breaking down and crying. In my anxiety attacks, I am not able to properly communicate because I'm so overwhelmed. And that's why I needed a therapist. The therapist that we did have at school was a social worker, and it was only one social worker for about 300 kids. I go to Riverside University High School. It was extremely hard to get into communication with her. And when I did get into communication with her, it would be days before I heard back from her. It's kind of hard to deal with and go to school and be there for 8 hours a day, go to all of my classes on time when I can't even think properly due to the severe anxiety that I have suffered from. This caused me to begin to be very low. I then started not being able to be myself. My work began to fall to the wayside, and I became slowly an introvert. My mother and my parents realized that this was a severe problem and that no one was helping me. No one was there when I needed them. And with that being said, I just want everyone who is listening to think about how would you feel if your child was in my position? I'm speaking to the board and the committee today to make a change. I want to make a change for the kids that are still in school and for the kids that are younger than me so they don't have to go through the neglect that I went through. Thank you.
Thank you. Madam Chair, we did have Kyla Mitchell registered to speak, but she is not on the platform at this time. We have also received one piece of written testimony, and that is from Alexandra Golick, who supports the mental health initiative.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Madam Clerk, I will be passing the gavel to Co-Chair Director O'Halloran.
So noted.
Okay. Thank you, Director Woodward, or Director Taylor.
Thank you. Thank you, Director O'Halloran. Thank you, administration, and for those ladies who worked on this. I know myself and Director Simpson brought this in last school year, and one of the reasons is because every time I was out in the community or at a school-wide based event, I would have students come up to me and tell me the stories that in reference to their mental health well-being, and continue to ask for assistance in what was happening within the schools. And I understand sometimes it is a very challenging and hard thing to at that time be going through something and not have the right staff there to assist or help these children. I also know within this budget that was just passed, there will be more licensed counselors and social workers and things of that nature. Another concern that I have addressed with administration is the number of students to counselors. And hopefully that is something that we are continuing to work on and address in the time frame. And if administration can give me what is the time frame if a student needs to speak with a counselor or therapist, what is the process for that as well?
Administration.
Go ahead.
Yep. Chair Taylor, it depends somewhat on the school. So some schools have full-time staff. So there are some schools have full-time counselors, social workers, and school psychologists. So I would assume that the time of those buildings, it would be quicker to connect a student with a support staff person. Some schools have part-time staff, which might delay a contact somewhat. However, I know that the way that we staff schools is not solely based off of enrollment, it's also based off of need. So taking that into account, where we know students may face additional challenges, we look at having a higher level of service in those particular buildings. So for example, our avenue with 194 students has a full-time social worker and a trauma support team person in that building. So the amount of time that it would take to connect a student to a support staff would be much less at our avenue than it might be at another school that also has a similar enrollment that may not face the same types of challenges that our students at our avenue have. So I'm not able to give you an exact amount of time, but it should be reasonable within a person's work time within a week to be able to connect with a student.
Director Taylor.
Thank you, Chair O'Halloran. Just two more things, and I'll let someone else in committee speak. I am also glad to see through the conversations with the administration that we are bringing students to the table. Often as adults, we like to make a lot of decisions for them without having them at the table to address them. And thank you for the lit students and the other students that came on tonight. I am looking forward to hearing some of the steps or strategies that they would like for us to have in place to ensure that their mental and well-being is also being considered and their needs are being met. And thank you, Superintendent, for creating and allowing that space. I look forward to soon hearing some of the feedback for that as well too. And also, I know we may not have the numbers now, but I think we need to ensure publicly that people understand the services that we have for our students and the amount of counselors or therapists at a school. I know I've also spoke about maybe having some type of tab on the MPS website that will list some of the mental health resources that we have. If you ask the majority of the students and some staff, what resources do we have? They cannot name them, but then the information that was given by administration lists at least 7 or 8. So I feel like if we are doing the work and we do have certain things in place, let's make sure that that line of communication is open and available, and parents, students, and staff have a way to access it more readily, so they also are aware of what we have in place. Thank you, Chair O'Halloran, and administration. If you would like to respond to that, that would be great.
Administration.
Chair O'Halloran, members of the committee, one of the things that we have done after having a conversation with Director Taylor is to pull all of our resources that we offer to students together and kind of lay out our menu of services. So that is something that we're looking at now that we plan to have up and running for the upcoming school year. So a child would know, a family would know what those resources are and what how to access those resources.
Director Taylor?
Nope, I'm done. Thank you.
Okay, I'm going to pass the gavel back then.
Thank you. The gavel is passed. Also
noted.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Also see Director Simpson here. If you would like to speak, I know you are also a co-sponsor of the Mental Health Initiative.
Thank you, Chair Taylor. So I just want to thank Chair Taylor for bringing this forward, and thank the work of the team that's been kind of pulling things, resources together. But in terms of comments or questions, I'll defer to my very wise and competent colleagues. And at the end, I can ask a question if I need to at that time. Thank you.
Yes. Any other committee members have any questions or comments? Director O'Halloran.
Oh, yeah, I'm not muted. I just wanted to thank the students who testified tonight. I want to thank Ms. Easter for sharing her stories again with us and really grounding us in why we're talking about this issue and really giving us, purpose, a sense of purpose for this work. Can administration just give us any update? I know the other person who provided testimony tonight alluded to the fact that we've created new positions with the budget. How are we doing with that sort of, I know that was just like last week, 2 weeks ago, but have those positions been posted? How are we doing with that sort of recruitment work?
Administration.
Chair Taylor, members of the committee, one of the things that one of our speakers talked about tonight is the number of students to counselors that we have. In our previous school year, we're at 400 to 1, looking at that at the high school level. With the number of counselors that we're going to be bringing on, we will have to retally those numbers, and those numbers should get even better. I have right now that's walking into the room is Leah Sculpture, who's going to kind of talk about where we are as far as when it comes to the idea around those positions and getting them posted. I know we have been doing that particular piece to make sure that we are able to go forward. Leah.
Yes. I'm blanking on who the Chair Taylor, members of the committee, sorry. Leah Sculpture, Interim Chief Human Resources Officer. At the final May meeting between, I think, the regular budget and the referendum budget, a lot of different positions were added through that process. And right now, the budget team is working with the departments and the schools to determine the different allocations for each school for any school-based position. And the allocations for any of those that are more centrally assigned itinerant positions. Once they figure out, the 0.5 of art at this school combined with the 0.5 art at that school, or same thing with counselors on where they'll be distributed, then those schools and departments send us a request to fill those positions specifically for their school or department with that more specific information about what that job will be at that location. And then once we get those, that's when we start the recruitment process for those. I will say that in the specialized services area and also with school counselors and academics, those teams and those departments work very closely with us, and they actually have very robust marketing materials that they have kind of taken from us and added to and combined. So we do have a very active marketing plan for all of those positions ready to go when we're told where we need them and what the FTE will be for each of them. Then also I will be working to make sure that we have those active recruiters out there in the field working on that. That's still also a work in progress since it just happened at the end of May too. But as soon as we get them, we are ready to post them, and we already do have a lot of recruitment materials ready to go for the different LAMP positions and the different specialized services positions. So I think they will probably be coming to us in the very near future once they finalize what each school needs.
Okay, thank you.
Hopefully that answers.
Yeah, it does. Follow-up, Chair Taylor?
Follow-up, Director O'Halloran.
Okay. One other question that I have received from people is how are we supporting employees looking at, increased stress with the abrupt closure of schools, and then looking into how we reopen schools. Do we have employee assistance programs or some sort of mental health resources that we're offering our own employees?
Chair Taylor, members of the committee, Leah Scopter, Interim Chief Human Resources Officer. We actually do have a very robust EAP program, and we've actually had it for an extremely long time, and that's available to every employee in the district, and it's free. The information is out there on the portal under our Employee Rights Administration page where it was normally housed, but it is also now on the main page of the website where there's the COVID-19 link. When you click on there, it also has our EAP information, and our EAP provider has been sending us consistently updated documents and resources that are being posted to that site. They've been sent out district-wide, and then they also have been in all of the Thursday updates as well. And the EAP services are free to employees and anyone in their family for a multitude of issues. This would be one of them, but they're also available for financial issues, legal issues, elder care, child care, any multitude of things beyond just maybe your own mental health or stress. So they have a very broad range of services, and they've increased the amount of services they're providing directly related to any negative experiences people are going through with the COVID-19 for yourself, for your family, physical, mental, any of those things. And so we have resources in multiple places for people to find. In those same places, it's not EAP, but other partners with United Healthcare that we work with have also provided resources and guides for people as well, connected to the healthcare that we provide to include some of those things in preventive services. So those are the ones I know about.
Mm-hmm. Director O'Halloran.
That's it. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you. Any other comments, questions on this item? Director Woodward.
One of the questions that I have is for Ms. Radke regarding the early childhood and children that are on buses before day in the morning in the winter to get buses and being hauled. Do you see that having an impact on the child's ability to learn being awakened so early in the morning out on buses trying to get to a school, and the time that they spend on buses going to school.
Administration, or Ms. Radke.
Go ahead.
Chair Taylor, Director Woodward. I think that's a very difficult question to answer because children respond differently. So if a child is on a routine of sleep and they're sleeping at a time that would give them enough time during the night to get enough sleep developmentally, I'm not sure that an early bus ride would disrupt that. So I think it would really depend on the situation and the child themselves. Routine, as we know, and structure is really beneficial to students, especially our younger ones. So if they have structure and routine, the bus ride shouldn't necessarily be any different than it would be for them now.
Director Woodward, follow up.
Yes, to Leah, but I would like to ask her a question.
Okay.
Where are we at? Are you being able to get counsels and psychologists and social workers of African American descent to work with most of the children that are in the district? Where are we? How are we growing those people to help with the children that are basically the majority in the school district?
Administration, Ms. Taylor.
Director Taylor, Director Woodward, members of the committee, Leah Scofter, Interim Chief Human Resources Officer. I will say that those three positions that you mentioned probably are less diverse than some of our other positions in the district. We have made it a point to actively try to recruit minorities to the district in every position. There are actually minority coalitions and associations for each one of those positions that you mentioned, and we do actively recruit with those associations and organizations, and we do tap in to our current school psychologists, social workers, and school counselors who are minorities themselves and have gone to HBCUs. They have helped us recruit their membership in different sororities and fraternities. They've helped us reach out to those groups, and they've helped us tap into those organizations that I mentioned, the professional organizations for people of color in those professions. So we've been fortunate enough to use our current staff and the networks and the resources that they have to try to do our best in those areas. But I would say still, if you were to walk into a college and into the classes that those people are in, you would still see less diversity than one would hope for, even less so than maybe teaching or other professions like that. So it is a concern. Right now with our grow your own para pipelines, I'm trying to think, they're not under me anymore, but I don't believe we have any grow your own programs in that area. However, stay tuned. It seems to grow and change every year by adding more things to it. And it's definitely an area that is a part of our communications with students in the middle school and high school as other possible professions for them to consider going into when they actually enter college, to try to help change the makeup of those entering school for the profession.
Thank you.
Director Woodward, follow up.
No, thank you.
All right, thank you. I see no other questions or comments for this item. Director Stinson.
Thank you, Chair Taylor. So I know that there were two programs mentioned, and the first one kind of went past me a little too fast, but the second one was wraparound for high schools, and we're considering adding 2 additional. I was wondering if we could have, not now, but just like sent to the board, the list of those schools. And what was the other program? I'm sorry, I have no I just don't remember what it was called, where we're also going to add 2 additional schools.
Administration.
Chair Taylor, Director Simpson, I do have the high school names for the wraparound component if you would like those now.
Sure.
Sure. So the high schools include, the current schools are Riverside, Washington High School, Vincent, and Bayview. The 2 additional schools for next year include Obama and Pulaski. I think the second program that you mentioned is the School Community Partnership for Mental Health, where MPS partners currently with 4 mental health providers in the community, which includes Sebastian Family Psychological Services, 16th Street Clinic, Children's Wisconsin, and Aurora Family Service. So we are in about 23 schools now. We're looking to expand. We're waiting on some grant funding to determine if we'll be able to do that. But we're looking at adding schools through that grant if we're able to, and having discussions with current partners about their ability, capacity to expand to new schools.
Great. Thank you very much. And then could I just have one quick follow-up?
Yes, follow-up, Director Simpson.
Thank you, Chair Taylor. So, I know you mentioned there will be, we'll be looking at the fall and providing a lot of tools to our students to kind of, help them cope with things that they've been going through. But in addition, I feel like, we also have to, and I know that we do as a district, look at the tools that we're giving our adults in terms of how we're relating, interacting with our students. And I was wondering if there has been any consideration given to kind of focusing professional development around, issues of, anti-racism, racist implicit bias, PD in general this year, somehow that's a target, in terms of looking at that social emotional piece that I also know is part of the equity guidebook. It just seems like that dovetails well together. And I just was wondering if there's been a shift in focus just because so much has happened since the month of March.
Administration.
Go ahead.
Chair Taylor, Director Simpson. So I can speak to some of what you alluded to was educator stress and self-care. One of the things that we embedded into all of the weekly social emotional learning guidance we sent out was an educator self-care message, specifically because we know that they're being asked to do things that they hadn't done before. So in addition to stress that they were dealing with their own families and whatever else was going on. So that was embedded in there. We also are looking at, in our guidance for social emotional needs when returning to school, what that looks like for staff as well. A lot of staff have experienced a sense of loss in not being able to finish out the year with their students. Sometimes it was graduating seniors, graduating 5th graders, things like that. So making sure that we're acknowledging that sense of loss that our educators feel, and coming back and kind of building that sense of predictability and routine for them as well. We have, the violence prevention team has looked at our professional development offerings for next year. And one of the things that we're looking at offering is an ongoing series with using the Compassion Resilience Toolkit, which is a partnership between DPI and Rogers In Health and others, to really focus on building resilience in your ability to care for others. So that's really about educators and their needs and their capacities to support themselves and students. And
Chair Taylor and members of the committee, and when it comes to students, we have social emotional learning that's taking place currently already in the school setting. And we also talked about the measures that we have gone through since the pandemic, as far as a tab on the website to address some of those concerns as well. You asked, would we be shifting or making a pivot? Yes, we will be taking a look at that particular piece, because we know that our children has been away from the school setting, been away from trusted adults that they have grown to know over the year. And there are some things that they may not quite understand about the pandemic. So there's a number of things that we need to do from a socio-emotional standpoint before we can go forward. So there's some things that we need to self-correct around that particular piece. That is something that we're looking at when we talk about the school reopening plan. Some of those kinds of things are totaled into what we need to do for our students as well as our staff. And then also looking at what can we do to support families as well through this whole process and what that will look like. And then maybe pivots there as well.
Thank you. Follow-up, Director Simpson?
No, thank you for that information and update.
Thank you, and thank you for the updates from administration. Madam Secretary, what is the next item?
Madam Chair, that was the last item on this meeting's agenda.
All right, thank you. So thank you all for joining us for the community on parent and community engagement. The meeting is adjourned.